Right, the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Department of Sports, Arts and Culture in collaboration with the Korean Embassy, Nelson Mandela Foundation, Artscape in Cape Town and Playhouse in Durban is currently hosting a 4-city performing arts and music tour of artists with disabilities. This initiative now forms part of the department's commitment of driving and supporting activities by the disability sector throughout the year. To tell us more about this, we are now joined by Phuthi Mabelebele, Chief Director of Advocacy and Mainstreaming Rights of Persons with Disabilities at the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities. Phuthi, thank you so much for your time. So take us through the purpose of these events and what they aim to achieve.
The purpose of this engagement and the 4 cities tour with the Korean Embassy through a team that they brought from South Korea of artists with developmental disabilities is actually to showcase talents and abilities of artists with disabilities. We have a challenge where our artists with disabilities are not given the platform nor the opportunity to showcase their talents as much as our other ordinary artists. So we brought the Korean ensemble to South Africa through the Korean Embassy, and it's an ensemble of persons with developmental disabilities. But as we were doing the 4 cities tour, we then ensured that in each and every city, which is in each and every province, for instance, in the Western Cape, then our artists with disabilities South Africa perform alongside the Korean ensemble. So it was a cooperation between South Korea and South Africa of artists with disabilities in line with this year's theme of South Korea celebrating persons with disabilities.
So now events such as this one are very inspiring because they set the tone, or are a point of departure for conversations moving forward, conversations about inclusivity. Do you think that enough is really being done to ensure that people living with disabilities in the arts get sufficient support?
We are advocating for that support by bringing even international performers with disabilities who are recognized all over the world, but them performing with our local artists. We are South African artists with disabilities. We are showcasing the abilities, the talents that exist already. We have quite a number of artists with disabilities. The challenge is still the support. The challenge is still them also being included in programs and platforms where artists perform, them having their own festivals supported by South African citizenry in general. At most, we find that the support is skewed where when persons with disabilities are having concerts, shows, you find them performing for persons with disabilities. And we are saying persons with disabilities are part of society, they are part of our citizenry, and therefore we have to equally be there and support them. And they've got very, very wonderful performances that they do. The dance by deaf artists with disabilities, they dance so well, and one could ask, how do they feel the rhythm of the music? And that's a learning. Also, we are learning about the different disabilities in line with the 365 days calendar of disabilities that we have since launched as the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities through our Minister Maitenkwana Mashabane.
Now, I think at the top of our conversation, you also mentioned the importance of being able to work together to ensure that, a common goal is reached. How did the collaboration between, of course, the various departments and stakeholders come about?
As the Department of Women, when we had gotten the opportunity to see what South Korea, how advanced South Korea is in terms of inclusion of persons with disabilities, we then engaged the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, and I must say the support has been tremendous. They've supported us in all the tours. Even today here at the National Heritage Day, we have artists with disabilities that are performing. Kazozo is performing alongside the Korean ensemble, and they perform today. And the beauty of it is that they also even perform our own local songs for South Africa. And Kazozo also performed as a blind a guitarist and also a vocalist. But also in Durban, we had Sinapo Arts for Africa. We had also Pinky. In Cape Town, we had the Cape Town Philharmonic Orchestra performing with a blind pianist, but also the Deaf Dance Company for deaf artists also performing on stage, and it was wonderful. And the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture supported us by gathering our local performers and paying them, because we no longer accept a situation where performers with disabilities perform for charity, perform for free, but they should be recognized for their professionalism and for the artists that they are in this particular stream. So Nelson Mandela Foundation has also been instrumental in also ensuring that we reach our local communities, and the collaboration has been between the Department of Women and Nelson Mandela Foundation, the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, the Korean Cultural Center, which is the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture in South Korea, and the Korean Embassy in terms of international relations. So the partnership has started. We are going to have cooperation signed by our different ministries, specifically to support artists with disabilities, but also in the manufacturing of instruments that our artists with disabilities are able to utilize when they perform in cases where they require specialized equipment.
You know, as we continue to have this conversation, Phuthi, an important element are the communities where people with disabilities come from are also, need to be mentioned as we continue to have these conversations. What sort of support do you think people in these communities should be giving people living with disabilities, particularly when we continue to have conversations about inclusivity?
The first point of ensuring that our communities participate is to accept our persons with disabilities as human beings, and not keep them behind closed doors. Accept them for who they are, and then we bring them out into social spaces, and they are able to participate and express themselves in the manner in which they want to express themselves. And in that way, in our various community spaces, we'll then begin to see more and more of our artists with disabilities coming up. Institutions of government, including our local government, our provincial government, are ready to support artists with disabilities, just as they're supporting sportsmen with disabilities. So that kind of support is there. For them is to come out and begin, and also persons with disabilities to accept that they are given, they've got a God-given talent and a special talent in terms of how they are performing as different artists and with their different disabilities. Because persons with disabilities are not a homogeneous one group, but they are different, and we also have to also teach our communities about the different disabilities that exist in our communities, so that we can begin to support them at the level of the family, because from the family to the community.
Right, Phuthi, I also understand there in the background that you guys are already underway with some of the proceedings for today. And yesterday also marked Sign Language Day. What did you perhaps have in place in order to commemorate that?
We are happy as the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities to say that very soon we have undergone the process of ensuring that the sign language becomes the 12th official language. We are just awaiting processes to be finalized in Parliament, and very soon our government will announce once those processes have been concluded. But we are happy to say that indeed in most of our platforms we already can see that sign language interpretation is already being integrated in our public platforms, in our community platforms and so forth. And we as South Africans have to also learn sign language interpretation. And this comes about during the month of September, which is also the month dedicated to deaf, which is Deaf Awareness Month, but also the month dedicated for awareness about albinism. So alongside the Heritage Month and alongside the Public Service Month.
So now talk to us about the tours that are meant to amplify this particular cause.
The tours, we have already had the first tour in the Western Cape, and we were in collaboration with Artscape Theatre, and we already had the tour in KZN in collaboration with the Playhouse Theatre, and we will be aware that these theatres belong to the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. And here in Pretoria, the performance of the ensemble and our local artists with disabilities was taking place here at the Union Buildings during the National Heritage Day functions. And on Monday, we are having the closing event of the Four Cities Tour at the Nelson Mandela Foundation Auditorium in Johannesburg.
Phuthi Mabelebele, we have to thank you so much for your time on the agenda, speaking to us about this very important course that they're running there with the department. Thanks very much for that.